On this week's episode of Friend Code, Sakurai talks about Smash. Nintendo's stocks take a dip, but they've got a surprise up their sleeve with a few unannounced games coming out this year. Hello everyone, welcome to a new episode of Friend Code. I'm your host, Michael Damiani, and today I'm joined by Daniel Budworth.
Hello.
Brandon Jones.
Hey.
We got some interesting news to talk about today. It was a little light on news. It was mostly in the wake of E3. A few more developments happened, some lingering interviews. The Sakurai thing we're going to talk about actually was an interview done around E3, and it is held on it. It is, I believe, a Washington Post interview we'll get to. Before we jump into any news, I actually have two quick corrections. Several people sent these in. So, I believe on the last episode when we were rating Nintendo's performance at E3, I think I called them out. I believe I called them out for not having as nice of a booth presentation in terms of it. The theme didn't quite feel as elaborate as the previous 2 years, where you felt like you were in a Mario level, like the city environment. And the previous year, you just encapsulated in Breath of the Wild. And I said, aside from the props, they didn't really do anything to that degree. I was told that actually Nintendo did recreate a Smash stage at their E3 booth. The competitive tournament stage at the booth was based on the new Battlefield Final Destination stage. So I guess I just didn't pay attention. I didn't play the For Glory part, and I didn't really go over there. I just missed that.
It's pretty loose.
Was that in the booth, or was that the tournament that Ben went to?
So that I'm not entirely sure.
No, that was in the booth. Because I did the I took Kyle's spot and I did the For Glory.
Okay, so
system that setup, and it was basically just like risers, like a series of platforms that had like a carpet that was colored like stone.
It's a very simple stage to pull off. I mean, when you say this, I'm thinking like the background.
Yeah, if you don't have a background, it's
like this elaborate set dressing.
Also, too, just because, and this is just one of the rare joys of E3, that like so much money and time is spent on this, that like things are gonna go wrong, and I don't know what it is in me, just the Schadenfreude of just like, that tiny little thing went wrong, and they had this massive screen at the Nintendo booth, just this humongous screen that they were splitting off into different gameplay videos, and there was just a wad of dead pixels like right in the middle. I was like, ha ha.
Oh,
all that work, all that setup.
You were so close.
And what do you see? You plug it in, you turn it on, and then like it works fine during previews, and then like the first day of E3, just this whole pink section, like, oops.
I don't think I saw that when I was there. It was probably not on Tuesday, so.
You couldn't see it in some videos, but when it was just like because sometimes they would show a little gameplay over here, and then it would just be a black screen. There was just like a little Snickers bar of dead pixel.
The other thing, I forget who made the claim. It might have been Kyle, but I don't want to put all the fault on Kyle here. That it wasn't a very Nintendo-like. They don't have a history of announcing games like they did in the fashion of Metroid Prime 4, where they show a teaser trailer with a logo, and then it's a few years before you see anything else. Or that's just how they reveal it in the beginning, is just something with that. The correction is that Nintendo actually revealed Metroid Prime 3 Corruption at E3 2005 in a very similar fashion. They literally just showed Samus standing next to her gunship for 30 seconds, and then a giant 3 showed up at the end. No gameplay, no hint of story, not even a subtitle for that one as well. So even within the Metroid Prime franchise, they've done the same thing before. And, we didn't see gameplay, I believe, until like 2007 for that, maybe. I forget it was 2006, but yeah. That they've done something like this before.
Well, yeah, I mean,
they've done it more than Metroid 2.
Yeah, if you think about like what we first saw Breath of the Wild, that was pretty nothing in a way. It was like, here's a field. Just ruminate on that for a few years.
I think people might have just assumed that was gameplay, but even before that, Skyward Sword technically revealed a piece of artwork.
Yeah.
There's a piece of artwork. This is how they revealed that one. And here's the next Zelda game. Artwork. Okay, cool. No title. Just here you go. But I mean, that was kind of cool. But that's it for corrections. Not too many. Let's dive into news. So first topic for today is Sakurai. He gets a lot of flack sometimes for Smash Brothers. He gets a lot of credit. but he also draws like the ire of like the Smash community at large. Sometimes with the statements he made. And the Washington Post did an interview with Sakurai, director of the Super Smash Bros. Series, also on Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And they asked him about his thoughts on Super Smash Bros. Melee, which is this revered game in the series, especially amongst the fighting game community. And this is what he had to say about this. So let's just go down the list here. So about Melee specifically, Sakurai said, I think a lot of Melee players love Melee. But at the same time, I think a lot of players, on the other hand, gave up on Melee because it's too technical, because they can't keep up with it. And I know there were players who got tendinitis from playing and messing with the controller so much. That really is hard on the player, and I feel like a game should really focus on what the target audience is.
Uh-oh.
So that was the first part, and then he had this to say about the competitive scene. When you talk about audience, I don't really think too much about the audience per se. I feel like a game at the end of the day is about playing the game. But if we focus too much on the top level players or the audience, then the game skews a little bit too on the technical side or mechanical side. And he wanted to clear up why Nintendo doesn't embrace the fighting game community as much as some of the other publishers out there, like Capcom or Bandai Namco. I think the philosophy behind them doesn't go in line with Nintendo's philosophy, and that some of these players are playing for prize money. It comes to a point where they're playing the game for the money, and I feel that kind of direction doesn't coincide with Nintendo's view of what games should be. So there you go. Those are the three kind of hot button statements right there. And oof. Our first, so how we do this, we get questions from our patrons, kind of guide this along. This first question comes from Sigma, and it sounds like he's just like kind of devastated after hearing these comments. Good day, allies. Sakurai bums me out every time he talks about competitive Smash. He directed Melee, which is still played to this day in competition, and he seems to ignore what makes it so relevant in this day and age. Do you think Sakurai got the gameplay on point by luck for Melee, or is Nintendo really telling him not to make the game competitive to please a wider demographic? So first of all, to clarify, people think on a technical mechanical level, Melee is like the best game as a pure fighting game.
Yeah.
So that's why some people think Sakurai is a genius. But then as time has gone by and he's said more of this stuff about the Smash series, people start to think it wasn't intended to be that way. It just players kind of found all this stuff and developed these techniques on their own that weren't necessarily intentional. And then two, do you feel this is Sakurai being forced to say that because of Nintendo's policies, or do you think he really like believes this stuff? Like, do you think this is like kind of his personal view on this?
I mean, there's definitely things that people find out in the community, and like as we've seen with like F-Zero speedruns and stuff, like people will find things that were not meant to be applied that way. Like the programming just allows you to do more than anyone could have thought of. But at the same time, like I think the basis of all the technique, like yeah, that's not just getting lucky. Like that's just somebody making a good game and then seeing after the fact that, you know, maybe for some people this starts to feel too intimidating. And you know, I think on Frame Trap recently we talked about fighting games, and there is sort of that barrier to entry now, to where
Yes.
like when we were growing up, you just went to a friend's house and played a fighting game, and now it feels like you've got to have like your skills like up to date before you even like try to play against anybody, you know, and so a lot of people are turned off, and I think that's what they're afraid of Smash going down that road. They want it to be more like Mario Kart, where it can be fun, where there can be complete turnovers, where like, you know, basically, you know, a bad player can still win sometimes. And I think that may be the thing that's making them nervous about the competitive scene, is that they don't want people to feel left out. And to me, like with Ultimate, I joked about this. I forget on what it was that we were talking, but like I really think that they like it may be difficult to replicate, but they should just have like a switch in there to like just turn on melee mode, like just flip a switch. Everything goes to like how melee is. You don't need to keep like repairing your GameCube. here you go.
On the real quick, just on that point, because that was a question. We had a patron who asked about that. Before I ask it, I just want to say there is precedent for this, not in Smash, but Ultra Street Fighter 4 has the option to choose any character and choose between their balance and moveset based on which version of Street Fighter like it was. So like Vanilla, Super Street Fighter, Arcade Edition, and Ultra version like that. So one of our patrons Logan asked, how crazy of an idea would it be for Sakurai to implement a way to switch versions of Smash Ultimate in that you can switch to a Melee, Brawl, Wii U, or Ultimate mode, and which would you prefer, basically? So, patrons were like thinking like that as well. That could definitely be a solution. I definitely want to also reiterate something, Blood, that you said earlier. You nailed it. First about, I don't think it's not luck yet. Like, good game design requires like skill, knowledge, experience, but some things do come even the greatest creators can't foresee everything their players will do. And you were talking about you talked about fighting games on Frame Trap recently. Street Fighter's combo system was not intentional. That was something that players found, and due to the response from it, it got worked into future games as like a core tenet of it. And I think that's pretty important, is that two-way street of user feedback helping to improve the experience, and that not everything that a developer sets out to do is necessarily like intentional, or they're not trying to they know what they're doing, but they can't foresee everything. And Jones, I'm kind of curious on this this first point, the question that was asked. I mean, is there any games in your experience that you've seen where the players have like done something unintentional or like figured something out, and it was something like the creators like, oh, that's a cool, obviously the creators did not like intend that, but it's something that like they enjoyed and stuff. And anything you ever saw that like eventually became part of the series later down the road or anything like that?
No, because fighting games, I think that's really Mortal Kombat characters that were dreamt up, and people going into the code and trying to make sense of stuff. I think what I keep trying to come back to and thinking about is trying to like put myself in Sakurai's position and imagine yourself as a creator that's moving from one project to another, and then one of your projects blows up way more than you ever could have thought it possibly could. And so it's almost like if you're in like a band and you keep going on concerts and people are just like, I just don't care about your new album. I don't care. Like, I want to hear the old thing, play the old songs. And you're like, and I wonder if it comes from that, maybe just a frustration that like, as a creator, I can sympathize with, of like, I just really want the focus to be on this new game. And it's interesting that people are so upset. I'm not saying that they're wrong. I'm not as informed as I would like to be about this topic, but it would seem to me that Ultimate would be it seems there's a lot of fan service going on in that game, like bringing back every single character, reimagining all of these stages visually. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they were to possibly add some kind of a control scheme down the road. Is Smash known for like post-launch? I know they do post-launch character updates, but like system changes or mode additions.
For the last one, they did a few balance updates.
Okay,
so they have done that, and I think you can expect something similar to.
Yeah, I think you're going to expect more out of that this time with all the work that they've done with Splatoon and ARMS post-launch.
I highly doubt it was an error, though, that Melee was that technical. Just from hearing his response, it sounds like that's what he wanted to do with Melee, and then, like, Bloodworth was saying, after the fact realized, is this a franchise that I want to make enjoyable for people that are just going to play this version of it for years, if not decades? Or do I maybe want to cater to new players like myself coming in and have never really been that good at Smash, and are maybe looking at Ultimate as like, okay, maybe this is the time that I sharpen my skills, and maybe I can be a little more competitive with my friends or even online than going up against people who are not only better at this game, but just understanding it on a whole different level.
Yeah. Because it is one of those things, too, that I think that the series has gotten more complicated, specifically with the new characters that they've added in. I feel like differentiating characters has led to them making like really bizarre systems that take a lot more work to learn. Whereas when you had the first Smash Brothers and Melee, you could tell people how to play that game. Like, boom, here it is. This is how you play the game. Every character plays the same, and now with characters like Olimar and Pokemon Trainer and Cloud, it's like there's these weird little things baked in that like you have to do some kind of training mode to like really get the most out of. You can't just play 4-player with buddies and get it all down.
How many characters this could be in Ultimate? It's so comprehensive that it has to be a little bit daunting. That it kind of is a little bit of a risk on Nintendo's end. I mean, not everyone's a veteran player. Newcomers coming in and seeing the largest lineup. I mean, yes, it gives a better chance that player might see a character. Oh, I like that. I like Wolf. I like that character from Star Fox. I'll give it a try. But at the same time, it also has a high intimidation factor. Whoa, if I'm going to be playing this online, I might have to fight against all these different characters. I'll have no chance. That's scary. There's a lot to consider there. And you know what? Going back to something you brought up earlier, Bloodworth, and I think is a valid concern that was presented by Sakurai in one of his statements, is that I think I agree with one of his statements about you cannot get a game to such a technical level that requires such a mechanical mastery of the game's just systems and abilities that it caters to such a small audience. Seth Killian, I believe, I hope I don't get this wrong, went on record when Street Fighter 4 was first in its marketing phase for coming out about what happened to the fighting game scene in the decade before that kind of caused it to trail off. And he essentially said that as much as he loved Street Fighter 3 and Third Strike for being such a great game, and a lot of fighting game players hold it up as one of the best fighting games, it simply was too technical for the average person. It was not mainstream. And unfortunately, these games still have to sell. Yeah. Then that's a balancing act they have to do here. And I think that's kind of important.
I don't envy people in that position. That sounds terrifying.
Right.
You know, knowing how much do we tweak this. Like, just from my own experience, just a random franchise that pops into my head was SSX. Is one of the things that really frustrated me with SSX is they would change the controls every single game. So like Tricky comes out and I'm like, oh, they improved it from SSX. This is great, nailed it. And then 3 comes out and I'm like, wait, whoa. And now they go back and play 3. It's fine, and I love playing it. But I remember at the time being so frustrated that by the time like On Tour came out, I was just like, stop. Like you nailed it. Like, why? I don't know what you're doing. Why? Like, and these are like major changes. Like you're no longer pressing shoulder buttons for some things, and everything's on the analog stick now, and but at the same time, that could have been someone's first SSX game. That could have been much easier to learn, and those players could already be off and running, and I'm back here struggling because I'm so used to the old systems. So I think that's one of the reasons why it's exhausting for me and kind of terrifying to get into fighting games, is because of that intimidation factor. Like, I enjoyed Injustice 2, but I was able to jump online and just get my ass kicked and smile the whole time, be like, whatever, it's fine. You know, like, I enjoy seeing these characters beat each other up anyway, so I'm not going in this to win or get on any leaderboard status. It's just kind of fun to test my skills. But I can see it being incredibly frustrating at the same time. It seems like it's a lose-lose situation. Like, there's no way to make like your entire fan base happy.
Oh yeah, there is no like real right answer here. And honestly, Ultimate seemed like their best attempt yet to try and appease as many people by throwing in everything. We still don't have all the details either. There's still other modes, other characters. There's still other stuff to reveal between now and December when it comes out. And I fully expect like more surprises. And I think the attitude will generally get better as time goes along, as we see more of this stuff.
Also, I was surprised, actually. I imagine they're like the starter characters, but they're only like, 20 characters playable at E3?
So E3 only had a small roster, but they said they want to go back to the feeling of Smash 64, where you start with a small roster of maybe like 8 plus a few extra characters. So I think it's like 10 or 12 they're going to start with. And you just keep unlocking as you play.
Yeah.
Like made it sound like it's be extremely easy, no convoluted stuff.
But it's interesting to see if there are people that are just huge fan, like you were saying, Wolf, and everybody like, that's my main. Like, I know that's one of my favorite characters from the history of the series. I know that's going to be my main when I play this game.
That's such a funny call.
That person or whatever, or like Pichu. I texted Kyle because I was in line at his spot for the For Glory tournament, and I was like, Kyle, who do I play as? And he's like, I mean, whoever. He's like, for lulz, you could play as Pichu because it's like categorically the worst character in like the whole series. And I was like, sold, let's do it. I got up there and it wasn't available. And so I wonder if there's going to be, or I imagine it's probably inevitable, that there's going to be this huge wave of people that aren't going to get to play their favorite character until launch. Because who knows what kind of betas or preview opportunities we're going to get to play this game before it comes out. And so I wonder if launch is going to kind of be bogged down by all these people who finally get to play Snake again. And are like, wait a minute, he feels totally different. I don't like these changes, because everyone's going to have opinions and everybody's going to want their characters to play a certain way.
That's valid. I wonder how they're going to address that. Maybe, especially someone who wants to jump in, as you said, like, I want this main. Oh, I have to unlock it. That was the deal breaker. No matter how easy you make it to unlock, I really want. Maybe they'll be like, well, if you buy that wolf amiibo, you can unlock it immediately. One of the many ways to unlock it. But this is a good question, or a good topic, because there's a question from Swordfish, 80. Swordfish, I always get your number wrong, so I'm going to say 00830. Because I try and say it like 830, and I'm like, is that right? Anyway, hey Allies, as a longtime fan of Smash Brothers, having missed the Wii U and 3DS Smash Bros. Game, it felt like a breath of fresh air seeing all the new stuff coming out in Smash Brothers Ultimate. My question is, for a returning fan like myself, is now a good time to jump back in Smash Brothers? So is this like the game to do it? And I feel like, yes, I feel Brawl and there's a lot in Brawl and Wii U, Smash and 3DS. You're gonna get all that in Ultimate. It's all gonna be there. I'm pretty sure, like all the stages, definitely all the characters. So that's good, especially if you come from like Melee. And I think this is an interesting thing. I'm kind of like curious about the evolution of Smash since it started. Smash 64, very small. We talked about small lineup. Few extra modes like break the targets, like race to the finish. Then Melee comes along, adds adventure mode. There's like this meaty kind of like story mode. Adds more like larger roster, and I think it kind of culminated with Brawl, where Brawl just like threw everything in there, just like all the content, all the songs, all the extra modes. Like they brought in Subspace Emissary to replace adventure mode, had the online, like everything. I think Brawl is now like the standard for how they like where they start at for content, I feel like. And like for what you've seen of Ultimate, do you think the name Ultimate really is a apt title for this from what you've seen?
It sounds like that's their strategy. Like, let's just check as many boxes as we possibly can. Let's just put as many things into this game. And then what I feel is kind of missing is some kind of specific creative direction that'll kind of speak to what style of Smash Brothers this is going to be. It sounds like it's like Super Smash Brothers kitchen sink. Like that's just like anything you can think of, we're going to throw it in there to appease as many people as possible. And I think it's also just taking advantage of the popularity of the Switch. It's their most popular console since the Wii. I think it's a really good time. Nintendo is hot right now, so I think they're like, let's just make something that people are excited about. Maybe possibly speaking to the expected longevity of the Switch. Like, I don't know how long it's going to be before Nintendo decides to. There's rumblings of a new Xbox and a new PlayStation, and so like I wonder if this is Nintendo being like, it might be a while before you get another Smash Brothers. It might be a long time before you get another Nintendo console, and so we want this to be a Smash that makes people happy for a long time. But possibly something that we just iterate on and update to instead of like saving it for another big release.
Yeah. I agree with you. I actually think Ultimate is going to be, if not the last Smash Bros. For a long time, could possibly be the last. I don't think it'll be the last Smash Bros. But definitely going to be the last Smash Bros. For a long time. Yeah. Okay. I think that no matter if they make Switch iterative versions, this is what's staying. They're just going to keep.
Because what's after it?
Yeah.
What would be? It'd be weird to try to sell another Smash Brothers game 4 or 5 years from now.
I feel like they have to go back
Ultimate.
to a drawing board and think of something crazy, or even something new, a new type of fighting game that isn't Smash Brothers anymore, or something like that. But my question for you, Bloodworth, going with like this theme of the Ultimate version, is there something you're looking forward to seeing being added into this Smash Bros. That hasn't been announced yet? Like something that was in a previous game you'd like to see, or just some new concept you thought of?
Yeah, I mean, I just remember from, again, going back to Melee, just, the fun of going through all of those different challenges and crazy, essentially boss fights in some ways, with Giga Bowser and Master Hand. And so... Yeah, I just want to see, something like that's like the adventure mode, but it's more beefed up. Maybe more stuff that's specific to each character.
Yes,
because I feel like Break the Targets was always like arranged to kind of match what your character's moveset was, and it was about like really learning like how to get that reach.
I felt like that way too. I felt like it was a mode designed to try and like push you to really explore all the wide range of abilities your characters had.
Yeah, and I think they just got burned on Brawl with the whole cutscene thing, where they treated cutscenes like the rewards, and they put all this effort into them, and then people just they just watched the cutscenes rather than playing through the game, and they didn't like the game part of it.
And then they blamed it on that's why they want to do it anymore, because everyone can just watch it on
me.
YouTube.
It's my fault. I did that when it came out in Japan. Put it on game trailers.
Well, now their excuse will be, everyone will just watch it on Twitch anyway. But yeah, Bloodworth, Bloodworth, sole person responsible for all this.
I love it.
huge change and shift in the Smash Brothers series right there. I mean, I feel good about Smash Brothers Ultimate. I mean, I think it's kind of. I mean, these remarks coming out now, I think is just gonna like fuel the fire that's never gonna go out about Melee, and its community is always gonna be there for whatever reason. I think I've said this.
I mean, you're gonna be able to get new GameCube controllers.
Yeah, even like we've done that before.
How many of your GameCube controllers are beaten up right now?
Yeah, that's like great for even for Melee players. That's great because they really need a specific defect in controllers to happen, or they have to spend a lot of like effort and time and potentially money to make it happen. So you're at least getting that part of it satisfied. But I think no matter what, I think I've even said before, even if they made a Melee HD, the Melee community would find something small enough wrong about it and say, nope, we are sticking with OG Melee, goodbye. And it's just never going to die until those people just literally, sadly, morbid, die too. Like once they're all dead and stuff, and like that community will be gone or whatever. Like that's sadly, I think that's what Nintendo's going to have to wait for. It's like, well, we're going to have to wait like 50 years or something like that.
I do think it's interesting though what you were saying about not wanting to make it an esport for money.
Yeah,
and that's a very Nintendo thing, and but at the same time, like they started this off with a tournament,
right?
And so I'm trying to remember like what the stakes were there. Did that person win anything, or are they just they're the winner of the tournament?
I don't remember there being money involved in this one or anything like that.
Yeah, I don't think there was a cash prize, but I'm wondering like what did they get out of it for being the
trophy?
Winner? Yeah,
and I guess a trophy and some stuff that is very Nintendo-like to give out rewards like that reflect pride is for you doing so well, for you rewarding your performance, and for better or worse, this thing Sakurai said sounds, as you said, but typical Nintendo stance that we don't want to really support people who play our games for money as a living, like competitively. That's not what our games aren't about. That you can play them competitive. Like if you were playing competitively for fun, it's like someone should counter. Okay, we'll take away all money prizes from Smash Brothers. We'll just play for fun, even at Evo and stuff. Will you support it then? Then it'd be like, now what's your excuse? But I see this. Like I think they have their own philosophy. They're sticking to it, and Melee fans are just never like they're just not going to see eye to eye on this. I think ever. This is just going to be a forever struggle that just does not go away.
You know what it does remind me of though, that I'm still waiting to see, that I think was so strange, I'm still hung up on it, is that weird esports section of the Switch launch trailer. Or the Switch reveal trailer. Oh, remember at the end there was like the team with where they had like the board and they were like going through their strategies and they're like backstage and then they like come out and I'm like, is this gonna happen? Like, what a weird thing for a publisher.
That's what they're saying is like the tournament they had at E3 is essentially the same kind of thing.
They've done
ARMS and they've done
Splatoon and ARMS is pretty much like that's their thing.
So it's weird to have them be as excited about that, so much so to be like, this is integral to our console. Like we want our console to make appearances at these things. We want people to walk up and then put the Switch on there and then be able to play and then be so resistant and weird about it compared to other companies, something like a Call of Duty or
everything you're talking about is like pushing
Overwatch.
Switch, and they do that, and they will push Smash Ultimate like they pushed Smash for Wii U at the tournament scenes. But when it comes to the Melee, this is a GameCube game.
Yeah.
No other fighting game gets like the prominence that like Melee gets. And I think Nintendo's just like, we just don't want to support a game we're not selling anymore. We do not sell this game. We do not make money off this game. We will gladly put money behind Ultimate because it's a brand new game. It's like they do. Nintendo has shown a history that they care about upcoming products and will be willing to work with people on that. And everything you just said, that's why they do it, as Blood pointed out, with Splatoon, with ARMS, and with coming with Smash Bros. Ultimate. But they're just never going to do that with Melee, and that just needs to be accepted, I think. And I also feel like we've talked about Smash for too long now, so let's move on. Some news. I don't know if this is a back and forth story here, because Nintendo stocks dipped and have been dipping this year. They took the biggest dip in June, especially even after E3. They kept sliding. Investors, just whatever reason, have lost faith in the Switch, but yet Switch sales doubled during E3 according to GameStop. So this is weird. So here we go. So CNN reported the Nintendo shares plunged 16% in June, through the week of E3. In fact, their stocks actually slid 7% immediately following their Nintendo Direct at E3. Sources have speculated that investors are just disappointed with Nintendo showing at E3, saying that there was just a lack of game announcements. Too much. They just don't have faith that they're potentially going to hit that ridiculous 20 million sales goal that they put out there, and Nintendo's still sticking to it. They still believe they can hit it. So obviously, here we go again. More people coming out, doom and gloom for Nintendo. The fun train's over here. And as I said, GameStop reported Switch sales doubled during E3. On top of that, they reported that they're seeing extremely high amounts of pre-orders for Smash Ultimate and Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. And what's even more shocking on top of all this, the MPD blog reports that Switch will be the highest selling console this year in the United States. So what's going on here? The sales reports all say Nintendo's doing great, but investors are just, no. Is it really this lack of game announcements? Is that really it?
I mean, it's not just the lack of game announcements. I think it's the people looking at the E3 flash, in a way, and you see something like The Last of Us, and then the next morning you see Smash Brothers, and I think there's a sense that some of these investors, I have a hard time feeling like these are the people that would have put their weight behind Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. It's they're looking for the next big AAA thing like Metroid Prime to be what wows them when Metroid Prime would not sell anywhere near what Smash Bros. Is going to sell, or even a casual Pokemon game. It's I think it's just one of those things that, and like we were saying before, the fighting game scene being seen as a niche product, when it's no, people buy Smash Brothers like nuts.
Oh yeah, it's way bigger than a fighting game.
Yeah,
people need to understand that. This is great. I love what Blower's saying here. That the flash in the pan, not investors not understanding this, looking for that big AAA flashy game with the big lights, Jones.
Right.
Because not completely related to Nintendo, but today it was announced that Capcom's stocks slid.
I heard that.
On fears of Monster Hunter World sales. Monster Hunter World is either the fastest selling or one of the best selling. It's the fastest selling and one of the best selling Capcom games ever. So
and
people
the PC
are
version's coming.
And the PC version is coming out August 9th, and people are like, what more do you want from Capcom investors?
Right.
And someone had to explain, it's not that they're worried about this how it did.
Yeah.
It says now set the bar so high that all future Monster Hunter games will not sell anywhere close to that.
Right.
So it's time to get off the train.
Right.
We hit the peak. We're going down the trough. It's time you sell. You sell high, you buy low. So it's you need to get off now before it keeps going lower and lower. So it seems like you just can't win into this, Jones.
You certainly can't win in the stock market.
Yeah.
That's one thing that always frustrates me is that idea that it's Apple's clearly not worth investing in. It's Apple's going away. That's going to happen, Or just Microsoft took a turn. These giant companies that have been staples of our lives for decades. It's going to be a roller coaster ride. They're going to have peaks and valleys. And it's when you hit that peak, then people are okay, well, if next year isn't going to be bigger than this year, I'm out. I'm going to move on to something else. And so, our shows would be very different if we just focused on the stock market. It would almost kind of be the opposite of the stuff that we talk about because, we're into things mostly because we're excited to play them. From a business perspective, we think sales, might be better or worse depending on how games performed in the past. It's just not. It was interesting. I wonder if a lot of those investors are basing themselves off of franchises they know very well, Zelda and Mario, that had extremely good showings. And both of those times where I'm watching those games at E3, I'm damn it, that's going to be the game of the show, isn't it? Damn it. Here they go, just strolling in with one big release, as a lot of these other companies are, shelling all sorts of different games. And they were just two very well-known games, two very well-known titles, franchises, two incredible games. And then they, like I said, bringing this something which I feel is much more of a crowd pleaser, is much more of just trying to broaden the horizons of this franchise and try to hit as many boxes as they can. I don't know if they're specifically selling to a new audience, and that's why I'm kind of more attracted to it this year. I don't know if I'm just playing a lot of Switch, and so I'm maybe this is the time that I'm going to get into Smash Brothers. But I just don't think they're picking that up, that vibe.
Yeah, I mean, I think as you said earlier, Blood, Smash Brothers doesn't seem very flash. Didn't have the huge high hype impact that a lot of the other E3 announcements had. But I will take this risk and say, of Zelda and Mario, I think Smash Brothers will end up being the best selling of those 3 games.
Could be.
When all is said and
Could
done.
be.
Or it's very serious competitor.
Well, and I think in particular with people, like one of the questions earlier, and like myself, like I do own Smash for Wii U, but I didn't really play it for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I played it with other people here and there, but I didn't do what I did with past Smash Brothers games, where I just like take all of it. You know, just like every challenge, every single player mode. Like I didn't do that. I didn't get comfortable with those new characters really. And I think there are a lot of people, because of where the Wii U was at, that are kind of in the same boat, and so you've got like this kind of pent up demand from people that have like, I haven't played Smash Brothers for 8 or 10 years.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think you're going to get a little bit of that as well. And I think that's what Nintendo's kind of like banking on, is that, yeah, you're going to see a lot of people coming back to Smash Brothers who maybe took a break. In the one of the previous questions we talked about, that for a reason, the last one or the last 2 or whatever just didn't interest them, or they, as Bloodwood did, bought it but didn't really get into it. So they're banking on that. Our next question ask about maybe possibly one of the other reasons why the stocks might not be doing so well. Because early in the year, there was another kind of like small stock panic. It had to do with Switch's online after the online was announced. So Big Papa Samuel asked, hey allies, with Nintendo's paid online service launching soon, Nintendo is attempting something which has never been done before, charging for online multiplayer for a console on which it was originally free. It will be a hard sell for a lot of people, especially the perceived lower quality of Nintendo's online infrastructure. Mm-hmm. Nintendo needs a big multiplayer title to launch alongside this online service, and since it won't be Smash, what do you think it could be, if anything?
Yeah, that's a weird one, huh? Because they haven't said that this is the game that's going to come out with it.
Let me back up on that question. Like, I actually want to save that last part for a little bit later. We don't need to get it. But I want to ask, I'll redirect this question. Do you think fears of online still are like, do you feel any better about online? Do you feel any worse about online? Anything that could possibly be contributing to this kind of like stock investor panic that's going on about the Switch, that, there were no games at E3 and there's this disastrous online waiting to happen in September. It's gonna not be as good as the other competitors. Like, any of that going on in your head?
Oh, sure. I think paid services is definitely a scare for everybody, whether that's a console offering services or whether that's a game offering. Yeah, there's going to be things you can buy in the game. That's like the big question that people want to hear now. But I think I'm pretty even when it comes to online from Nintendo. It's like something I'm probably going to invest in. Maybe I don't feel great about it. I don't know if a lot of these classic games that are offered, if I'm going to be jumping back in and playing these games. So it seems like something...
You're not going to pass the controller with Damiani to play Zelda?
It remains to be seen.
Anytime you get stuck, just say, Damiani, take the controller.
He's not going to give that controller back. I'm not going to get that controller back.
You're not
just going to sit and watch Damiani play.
That's still so weird to me.
So yeah, I wish I analyzed that more. I wish I had a fresher take, but it's really just kind of something that seems like, yeah, it's probably going to be less than we're expecting. But at the end of the day, it's something we're going to be comfortable with, and we're going to be looking back a year from now and be like, oh yeah, we were complaining about that, and we're all just kind of used to it now. But at the same time, I think that's something where if I'm an investor who is kind of treating the games industry at arm's length, only just absorbing news when it is pertinent to my financial interests, and I hear that Nintendo just possibly screwed up some kind of persistent subscription service that is different from how they did before. If you have a bunch of consumers that are expecting a thing they got for free, and then they're going to, I mean, that's a recipe for a lot of pissed off people.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially if you take something as Splatoon 2 and how big that's been worldwide, and to just say that, one day you're just going to log in and be presented with an option to purchase or not play.
Yeah.
It's a really strange situation to be in, and I could see that, yeah, there are investors and a lot of people that are still waiting for Nintendo to say, this is why it's good. Yeah. That has not happened yet.
That is a good point, Budworth, because... the answer that came out of a Q&A session with investors. Former Nintendo president Kimishima said, we have something that will show you why consumers will be excited for online. And thus far, my humble opinion, they've not demonstrated that whatsoever, and I don't think they're going to do that by the time it rolls around in September. And even the crazy idea of giving existing players, hey, existing games up till September will remain free to play online. So Splatoon, Mario Kart 8, they will not. But everything after that date is going to require, like, they didn't even do that. They're just going to force everyone to get on board that pay service. And I would, if I was an investor, I'd be a little concerned about those. Like, hey, Nintendo, you really think this is going to work? Okay, sure. But my faith in you is you're losing my faith.
Yeah. My unfortunate relationship to Nintendo has always been, what decision are they making? Well, that's dumb. And buy it anyway, but that's stupid. Like, it does not affect. I do not vote with my wallet when it comes to Nintendo because I'm always just I'm gonna want to play that game online. I'm gonna want to check out that new release of something that hasn't been around forever. Like you were teasing something earlier. Maybe we can get to it later. But like whatever dumb hoops I got to jump through gameplay wise to play Animal Crossing on Switch, I'll do it.
We'll get to that because that's our last topic. Here's the thing though. I think that you both can easily speak to this. Kind of like this could be another reason why sentiment might be like shifting on Switch for especially investors. Sam asks, "Hey allies, do you feel like the Switch just isn't living up to the hype it generated from last year, with a Kirby Star Allies and Mario Tennis Aces getting middling receptions, and the only outstanding title this year being a Wii U port?" In their opinion, how does it look? I injected that. How does it look in terms of first party efforts? Lots of love from Sam. So as you talked about Mario and Zelda last year, like all the flashy things were last year. Yeah. The surprises
and Mario and Rabbids.
Yeah. So this year, while they've had constant software support, a lot of people like to point to their first party output so far this year has, like, even though they're selling games and still releasing, is the hype. Do you still feel the same hype as last year, Jones? Excitement?
Yeah, I mean, there were two different types of hype for me with the Switch. There was, what the heck is that Zelda game going to be like? That looks crazy. Like, is this going to live up to all the promises that they're making? Is this Mario game really going to be a return to form? And once I actually finally got that thing in my hands, once I owned the Switch, it just turned into, I just love the system for what it does. And so when I don't have a game to play necessarily on a Switch, it's not a kind of Wii U relationship where I keep looking at that being like, that's disappointing to me that I'm not playing that system as much as I can. It just, I find that moment, like I went camping the other week and was like, oh yes, Hollow Knight, let's do it. Now is the time where this console just fits perfectly into my life, and I know there's just always going to be a game, whether it's like that next game that I'm dying to play, or something like a Stardew Valley, which I really want to spend enough time in to where I can get hooked on that game, or a Hollow Knight, or just something like that is a fun new opportunity to play this game, even like a Wolfenstein, which I never actually finished New Colossus.
Well, I've been playing Mario and Rabbids lately as well, and that's really great. And that DLC just came out, and it sounds like the DLC is fantastic. And that actually I think is one of the interesting things that we really hadn't seen in the past couple of generations is like. Right now, Nintendo's on an uptick of third-party announcements. Like before, you would get like these, claims of support from all these third parties, and they would launch, and then they wouldn't sell, and then the third parties would dry up. And right now, we're seeing like the opposite. We're seeing like a lot of indie games getting really big boosts on the eShop, even though there's a lot of debate right now about whether Nintendo wants to put too many indies on there. And then you're seeing, the Mario and Rabbids collaboration, the Starlink collaboration, and then this, the things that are really surprising to me are stuff like, Fortnite and Ark and now Warframe this weekend, coming to the Switch, and it's like, okay, that's pretty big news because those are not companies that typically you would have seen on a Nintendo platform.
Yeah, it's I still think it's not at the level that people's are dreaming of in general, like that ridiculous everything comes out.
Definitely not.
You still have to any reasonable person I think has to see that they're like everything Bloodworth just said, on top of like we already alluded to or discussed a little bit about like these ports, these like Switch ports of like Bethesda stuff and software stuff. Like, oh wow, they're actually trying to get these games to run on Switch. To even stuff that people are saying no, we're not doing it. They're at least acknowledging it, and you can feel like it sounds like they're feeling the pressure of like how well Switch, like Monster Hunter World. Yeah, we can't really do that on Switch, but here's another Monster Hunter game, and also, by the way, the next Monster Hunter, the new one, will be made with Switch in mind. Like, there's definitely it's clear they were all caught off guard, and rightfully so, because who would come on, what Nintendo's history last generation, right. They had to play it safe, but now they're scrambling to catch up.
What about is Mega Man 11 coming to Switch? Is that?
Oh yeah, 100% coming to Switch.
I wasn't sure about that for sure.
I think I forget I'm involved in a bet. I said that was gonna be the best selling version. Hands down, it's gonna blow away all the other versions.
Yeah, especially considering when it's coming out, that could be the case.
Yeah. But we've been talking about a lot of games here, and I think, and we speculated it might be when investors are so kind of touchy about the stocks price or what Nintendo's performance at E3, but E3 comes and goes, and then former Nintendo president Kimishima says, Nintendo says they have more games coming 2018 that aren't announced, and we will announce them at a later date.
Whoa.
Wow, okay, time's running out here. What are you doing?
Right.
Yeah, so as I said, Kimishima revealed more titles coming to Switch this year haven't been announced. We don't know when they're going to be announced, other than that they're coming at a later date. We are now in July, so less than half the year is left to get to announce, and these games come out.
Right.
And we know some of the games are already coming out. So are they going to be first party games? Are they going to be third party games? Are we going to get a slew of ports here? And so let's start with that. I made you hold on to it till now. not Animal Crossing, the Switch Online.
Sure.
Blue Koi also asked, with Nintendo Switch Online launching in September, do you see any unannounced game being a sort of launch game for that service? You could do it, Jones.
Yeah, I mean, there has been multiplayer in Animal Crossing before, but that's kind of been my big notes with a way to evolve that franchise is just let me just send a note to a person. Why can't you can't do that, right? I have to go into your town and put it in your mailbox, right? In previous games, on the Wii U version, was I able just over the internet to put a letter in the mail and it would just come to you?
I don't remember there being specifically an email function like that.
Or just a letter, I could address. That when I opened up a letter,
what
to
was amazing is
someone,
you could on the GameCube send somebody a note. You put in their name and their town and whatever, and it would give you a code, and you just give the person the code, and they would have the note and the gift that you sent to them.
Whoa.
Through just code.
It's definitely possible, Jones. It can definitely be a feature in the new one. Yes.
Yeah. I would love that. I would just love cracking open, having maybe played in a day or two, and I got a bunch of letters from friends, and it was not something where it's I have to go make time where we're playing this game at the same time, to coordinate them in some way.
I think there are other things.
All sorts of, and especially, as we saw that they deconstructed that franchise for mobile. I'm sure they've done lots of testings of way that they can incentivize people in an online sense to be attracted to all of the stuff that you could do to communicate with other people in an Animal Crossing game.
Also say Straw Hat Ninja also asked a question which you asked us basically what we could expect, and said, Animal Crossing makes the most sense to me. For launching alongside an online service in September, and a game that has yet to be officially announced that could still come out this year. I could totally see Animal Crossing being this game that they just didn't want. They didn't want to reveal it at E3 because it was going to take too much time to show it off. When they had Smash Brothers, it's something best saved for an Animal Crossing Direct, and they have done Animal Crossing Directs.
True. I wonder though. Actually, I hadn't really thought about this. When all the times I've been thinking about Animal Crossing. How much time do you need before announcement and launch? I think that is kind of the franchise where your audience is there, they're ready to go.
Yeah.
I don't think there's necessarily, even if you have a gimmick or two, I think that can be easily explained. Yeah, I think in 30 minutes we could be pretty caught up on what an Animal Crossing could be like on that system.
Just like the phone app where they did the direct and it was here you go. It's here it is. I think Animal Crossing, you get everyone excited, and it's just you got to get it out soon. Once you,
a mid-September direct to a Christmas launch. I could see that happening. I refuse to get myself excited for it, but it's possible.
Do you have any ideas, Budworth, or an unannounced game or a game idea?
A specific game? No, but I'm not surprised by this though, because Nintendo has always done this kind of thing where. They've got a few titles that may not, light up the world, be quote-unquote E3 worthy, but they just come out and they say, hey, this is going to be out, this quarter when they do the direct. There's a couple of extra little things in there that we wouldn't know. I remember that, I think what they did that with Excitebots, which was probably a big mistake, but it was a couple of weeks before that game came out that they announced it.
And that's a while ago.
Yeah, and then also on the Wii, Wario Land Shake It, like I think was really not that far in advance between when they announced it and when it came out.
Yeah, I don't remember. I mean, I remember the game. I don't remember we announced, but I mean, I'm assuming, I believe you're right, Bloodworth. But like, they do have a history of doing this. That they do break up their announcements throughout the year. I mean, E3 they do make bigger announcements, but at the same time, at any month, Nintendo could just drop a direct and be like, "Hey, here's this huge thing that you know that you didn't think was coming, and it's coming." And I do think, I do believe. I don't want to get too excited. I believe Animal Crossing is a good candidate, Jones, but I also would not be too surprised if it's like, hey, not this year. That's too much. Like next year, everyone, we got something special for it. I do definitely think, if like a betting person here, another Wii U port is definitely coming in the second half of this year. Like we're definitely getting one of those like Wii U games that have been rumored to get like a Switch treatment to. There's one definitely coming there. There has to be. There's definitely one coming. Don't want to get people too excited, but
I mean,
guess
with
which one it is.
I mean, with the ongoing rumors of a Pikmin 4, I could easily see like a Pikmin HD collection kind of thing.
That's a very good one. I'd say like Pikmin collection would be a great candidate to maybe soothe the people like upset that Metroid Prime 4 wasn't at E3. Maybe that Metroid Prime trilogy comes to Switch.
Yeah.
As well, Joey Konami. I know it's not the same, but like, hey, here you go.
I'd play Prime finally. Yeah,
you get a lot of people get a chance to play Prime. I think those are probably like the two probably.
But neither of those really speak to online. So yeah, I mean,
they don't have to necessarily be like we could break off from online at this point.
Sure, but I mean, I do think that it would be in their best interest to have something that really leverages that online push.
Yeah, like for like multiplayer stuff, I could definitely see that. Because I was thinking of like other likely ones. I mean, they could bring back the Wind Waker HD. Say they really love that game and put it on Switch, and it did have the Tingle Tuner stuff with the online messaging system like that. There's no more Miiverse, but they could be reworking that to be something that utilizes online communication for that, and you have to have Switch Online service to utilize that. But I think it's gonna be probably to be stronger.
And then the other, I mean, the one thing that they could hold secret and be big online would be Mario Maker.
No.
Yeah, there you go, Bloodworth. There you go, Bloodworth.
That's your perfect online game.
There you go.
Yeah.
Bullseye.
I like that. I think that would get people like, you get those extra levels. You gotta be paying.
What if it's like what if Mario Maker happens like a couple weeks before the online service launches, so you have time to like get your levels ready, so everyone's like offline, obsessing. Okay, here we go, it's time. And you just get.
It'd actually be amazing if they
influx.
if they did something to let they turned on the Wii U servers again or whatever like this,
or if they had like a best of kind of
to be able to forward them to the new like version of Mario Maker or something, that just like this promotional window of like they're encouraging you to like, hey, bring your levels over to online and you can like re-download them onto your Switch version. Like I would imagine you have to re-upload them to a special server, not like the Wii U's like server where all the stuff is on. I'm just guessing on that.
That gets
your
less
Wii
likely
U
the more
port
you
box as well.
Yeah, that's a double whammy right there, Bloodworth. I'm kind of curious if you think there'll be anything like huge in terms of possibly like a new IP, because Brian, part of his question is, hello allies, Nintendo announced more Switch games are coming in 2018, and I'm hoping that they will all, in fact, be brand new IPs. No sequels, no reboots, no revivals, no spin-offs, no guest characters, no direct and analog to any Nintendo franchise, or any of those loopholes. If this turned out to be true, basically, what do you want to see? So, like, do you think there's going to be a new IP? First-party new IP? Any chance of that?
I mean, there's always a chance, but something major that they announce with that kind of short notice, I don't know.
After E3 sounds unlikely.
That sounds less like, I feel like and even a big third party thing. I think they would have like loved to have touted that at E3. Yeah. I think something truly new is very unlikely at this point. I feel like that's something that will be best served at the beginning of a year Nintendo Direct, like we did with Labo, or you save it for an E3. I think late in the skewing towards the holiday season, that's not probably the best idea. I feel like. And we're talking about stuff that has to be coming out in 2018.
Right.
They're not gonna like if they could totally have a direct for something coming out next year or 2 years. It's a new IP. That's not counting for our discussion. We're talking about 2018 stuff. So I feel like that's the least likely option.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many different things they could pull from. Like even like they were really successful to the point where like they put out so many I just stopped paying attention with the Picross stuff on the 3DS.
Oh yeah, all that stuff. Oh yeah, I felt like there was a lot of those in there.
And we mentioned Wario earlier.
Yeah.
It's been forever since there's been like a 2D Wario game.
Yeah, I mean they can even do like they've been known to put out spin-off type games of their main franchises at this point.
Right.
It's like out of blue. Like, where did this come from? So it feels so new, but it's different. I could see like some.
Oh yeah, we just get a Mario Odyssey drop.
Yeah, so like they could even be Mario Odyssey like not proper, but Kingdom DLC. Oh hey, guess what's coming in like August, September? Oh, and you know what? There you go. Or some kind of like online co-op play with Odyssey. What if the new Kingdom is like, hey, tag team online or something like that? I mean, that's pie in the sky, but I could definitely see Kingdom DLC being a big announcement for them. Like, hey, you want to play more Odyssey? Here's a few more Kingdoms. Enjoy, have a good time. And, unfortunately, no new Zelda DLC since they said that's closed off.
Right.
But hey, maybe that top-down 2D Zelda game we all want. Like, hey,
Advance Wars has been dormant forever.
Advance Wars, good one. Heck, even I was trying to allude to that. Basically, F-Zero. I would not be surprised they shadow dropped like F-Zero, like not a full price $60 game, but just a more like a very nice swimming in sevens type of F-Zero.
Yeah.
Obviously it wouldn't be swimming in sevens to us, but like in terms of their enthusiasm and probably the production value, it's not screaming brand new, but just more of the same from like maybe GX style or just something similar, or heck even making like a new Super Nintendo style F-Zero, like sprite based and everything.
Dangerously close to getting a 10 by Daniel Bloodworth. I mean, we're always trepidatious about that,
We could, like
have to.
I'm sorry if I'm talking down to F-Zero at all here, Bloodworth. Like I'm basically trying to say like they could totally drop something that's not like a AAA F-Zero effort essentially,
Right.
and
It's just one of those Nintendo kind of dead franchises.
I mean, like the last couple of that they did on GBA were very far from AAA. They were not good games.
We could spend a lot of time here speculating about like what we want to like hope and see that they come out, but I think the point is that there has to be a direct coming up soon. We're gonna see what it's gonna be, and they have more games. So how I want to wrap this up. Do you think there's anything they really can announce that's still coming out the year? Like, do you think this is gonna really alleviate the topic we've been talking about like earlier about like the stock prices? Like that's the reason stock prices are dropping, because of fears that there's not exciting game announcements for this year and hitting that 20 million goal. Like, is this really like gonna solve that? My gut instinct's like, no, this isn't gonna do anything. But
having games as big as Mario Odyssey and Zelda take years and years and years and years to realize. This is clearly something like right when the Switch was. I mean, before then, because Breath of the Wild was supposed to happen on the Wii U, and I think we're just kind of in this potentially uncomfortable but just kind of like drifting phase where they are banking on the success of some of these incredible games that they launched with this very unique, very exciting console. We had a message on Community Showcase where somebody was like, I bought Mario Kart 8 this month. That's why it keeps sending up in the NPD. It's me. It's my fault. But there still is 4 or 5 games that they can count on, doing incredible sales every single month. And so I think they want to have that domination again with Metroid, with, even like a Shin Megami Tensei Fire Emblem. Like with these franchises are going to get these kind of big revolutionary sequels on Switch. They're going to be exclusive to the system. They're like, let's take the time. We'll our stock will drop. Maybe sales will drop. We'll take our licks, and then we'll come back with a vengeance. 2 or 3 years later,
big Pokemon game is next year.
Exactly. When these big 2019, I think it's going to be another big upswing with them really pointing to some of these big AAA titles that people were expecting that hopefully also have the same vibe that Zelda and Mario did, which was not just, hey, another one with this weird concept, but let's get back to what made these games successful in the first place. Let's really give you a revolutionary system, but something that'll still feel like a classic iteration of this game. Got me playing Mario again. I really stepped out of that franchise for a long time, and
Nice.
I devoured both Breath of the Wild and Odyssey because I had concerns going into both of those games. Same with Zelda. I haven't touched Zelda in years, and I was like, I think this might be the one that I'm just gonna have to play, and I'm so glad that I did because it was really great. So, I think. I stepped out of Pikmin for a while. I didn't play. Yeah, I played a little bit of Pikmin 2. Didn't play Pikmin 3 at all. Loved Pikmin 1 so much, and so it's like maybe 4. I think that's kind of the trend, and Nintendo sees that working, and I would not be surprised if they do that with all of their games. But it's not something you can do in a year or two. It takes a while.
I mean, at this point, it's amazing how they've gotten people excited, hook people in with so many different types of games, whether it's the new takes they've done on like their first party series with Mario and Zelda, putting all these indie games in here, bringing back old classics. Like they have a lot of angles of attack, I think, for this system that like addressing like what software came out. I don't at this point expect like a huge AAA surprise to come out in the rest of the year. There's so many shadow drops they could do that actually would get people kind of excited. Like for old games, put original remake. Put Resident Evil remake, RE1 remake on, drop it.
Kaboom!
Right by Resident Evil 2 remake. It's coming out right
it's
before.
Easy one to do. It's an easy one.
It's like, holy crap. You know what else would be like? Everyone's bought it a million times on every other platform. And it would justify a character being in Smash Bros. They just put Final Fantasy 7, OG 7 on the Switch. That would just like sell. There's think about it. They really could put like anything that will run on that system that is a big deal from the past, and it would get people excited again. And my point I want to make about that is like I wish investors could see that, because that level of excitement, that's like the X factor of the Switch. I feel that's why people keep it's going to keep going for a long time. I do think this is a Wii situation. If at worst, at best, it's going to be even bigger than the Wii, because it'll be sustaining its sales and software sales, like high software sales, longer. Because Wii sold very well for a long time. First party software sold pretty well. Everyone else suffered on Wii. That's not the case with Switch right now. So I think this is the best case scenario they've been in a long time.
My most anticipated Switch game of 2018 comes out this Friday. Octopath Traveler, man. I'm just nuts excited for that. But how do I sell that to Wall Street? How do I tell them I don't think that is going to break Switch records, but it is something I'm excited about. And so I have that feeling that's kind of what we're all at with the Switch. We're all excited for that one thing that's going to cater to our specific part of this big community, and but it might not be that one thing that's going to cater to everybody. It's not going to be the one thing that just oh man, everybody, grandma's going to be talking about the Switch this weekend because
apparently grandma's going to be talking about the Intellivision.
We'll see. Yeah, when does that come out?
They're going to be announcing details in August.
We don't even know what that is. They're accepting pre-orders.
Well, we know that it's no 3D games and it's nothing above an E rating, and it's going to use a controller like the old Intellivision, not these funky, hard to understand joypads that we have now.
But in a weird way, I could see that's something the stock, stockholders are like, wait a minute, this could be the thing.
And there's no buzz. Wrapping all this up as we're closing out here, I just do want to say, next episode when we record, it will actually be after San Diego Comic-Con has happened. Nintendo will be there. The last few years, there's been one announcement that has come out around this time period. And has been a new classic system being released by Nintendo.
Right.
We had SNES Classic last year, and we had NES Classic the year before. We are in the midst of a reissue of an NES Classic.
Why did you put that in my head
maybe
right
there
now?
won't be something, but it doesn't have to be another classic system. This is a time where Nintendo can just, hey, E3's over, it's been enough time. Hey, we just want to drop something else because we want to get you excited. Who knows? We might have some cool stuff to talk about coming away from Comic-Con with announcements and stuff. So as early as that, we could be talking about that weird thing. We were like, what did they have to announce? Oh my gosh, it was that. We're talking about that next episode.
Yeah, what's tricky with Classic for me, I feel like N64 is too expensive to produce. And Game Boy is what aesthetic do they choose for Game Boy? Because if you go with the old school Game Boy, well then a lot of people are going to be excited for black and white games and a lot of that library. But if you go with say the Game Boy Advance SP or something, it feels like there's not as much of that nostalgia factor to it. So I'm really curious what, if anything, could come out that would be the equivalent of the NES or Super NES.
nothing's impossible, but I'm of the belief, I have a bet with Huber. I don't think any more new classic systems are coming out. I think all that stuff is for Switch. I think they're gonna release those games individually on Switch through the eShop. It's where like they're
makes sense.
It's not virtual consoles. It's the eShop. And I think the crazy thing, I think they'll just release controller add-ons like peripherals. They obviously have GameCube support in there. They have the adapters. Just make an N64 controller. And for Game Boy stuff, I just expect
I'm really curious what Nintendo would do for a modern N64 controller.
Yeah,
those things did not hold up well.
It'd be insane if they make a new controller. Like, hey, here is a modified N64 controller. It will fulfill all the things. Like, I honestly think they'll just move the analog and the D-pad over onto one side. I think it'll be a normal controller. They're just gonna get rid of the small grip, and they're just gonna put the Z trigger either as another shoulder button like GameCube. Mm-hmm. I think it's gonna be close to the GameCube controller if they do I think that was the evolution in their heads of the N64 controller. I would not be surprised to see that. Hell, they might even just be like, use your GameCube controller. Like, we redid all the controls to like be remapped to a GameCube controller. Who knows? But we'll see. Next time, we'll see what cool stuff we have to talk about. But other than that, want to thank everyone who submitted your questions for this week's episode. If you'd like to submit your questions for consideration for our future episodes of Friend Code, the week we are recording, I'll make a Patreon post for $5 and up patrons, and I will let you know what topics we were talking about that week. Submit your questions related to those topics. Very high chance you'll get on there. Usually the questions I don't get to are ones that weren't related to anything we were talking about, or sometimes we just naturally start talking about that. I still try and give you a shout out, like, hey, so-and-so did at least ask about that, but we talked about it. So you get more questions in this way than the old system, and I think by next episode I don't have to explain this anymore. It's just gonna be like, this is the way it is. It's good. But thank you for these great questions again. Thank you to you both for joining me on this week's episode.
Since I'm probably not going to be on Friend Code for a while.
Oh yeah,
because I am not the first person that people come to when they need that hot, spicy Nintendo news. How are Amiibo selling?
So Amiibo sales have been like pretty good actually.
Because that's the thing. Because again, something else for stockholders is not that sexy. You know.
So here's the thing: they haven't been releasing as many new ones. But they sold very well. But they did announce that they are Smash Brothers is getting a whole new lineup.
Of course,
it's coming back. And they've released a handful here and there for different games. They still sell they still sell well. I think, but again, they're less frequent though.
Something for when you're talking to Wall Street does not sound that exciting, but it's because it's not new. It's like, well, haven't they been doing that for a long time? And it's like, yeah, and it's still gonna sell.
They also have no more competition for that.
Yeah, exactly. That Snake Amiibo, man. Forget about it.
That Snake Amiibo is gonna be like, you're gonna get multiple versions. Those are gonna be the collectible for that. The new Cloud reissue. Can't wait to see what
they could just release a Snake cardboard box Amiibo and just thousands.
That's gonna
hundreds of thousands.
That is gonna be it, Jones. That is literally gonna be it.
I'm excited. I'll get it.
Master hand.
Oh yeah, the Amiibo thing's gonna be interesting. But yeah, again, thank you for joining me this week. And until next time, may the way of the hero lead to the Triforce.